Hello, Beep Baseball World. Welcome back to the Beepball Blues Show. I am Neil D-A-W-G, and I'm once again joined by the most powerful man in the entire Beep Baseball history, Seth. Bam, bam, Clark.
I like that. Bam, bam. Bam, bam.
That's why I went
What's up,
back
Neil,
to it.
dog?
It's first
Yeah.
when I did that the last time. You're like, "Oh, I like that, bam, bam." It's the first time that you didn't just sit there in silence for a second after I introduced you.
Like that. Bam, bam.
What's
What's
happening
going
with
on, Neil, dog? Oh, just feeling blessed to have this opportunity to share this space with you. So, I learned a long time ago from Don and Mike, no inside jokes. That's an inside joke. So, man, I'm doing all right, Neil,
I don't know
dog.
if it's
Just
his
chilling.
inside because I'm going to mention. Is that a clubhouse inside joke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
So
have everybody
I'm
talk,
yeah.
to
I'm
share
going.
this space and have this opportunity to
Thank
really,
Thank you so
to
much
reach
for
out.
welcoming me to the stage.
Yeah.
Turning my microphone on at my house. Actually, I'm gonna mention Clubhouse. That's why I went ahead and asked if that's what you meant. I'm gonna mention Clubhouse. First, I just want to mention what we're doing because we've had at least want to
Oh,
talk
don't
about.
tell anybody. We don't want them to turn it off. No.
That's about probably a matter of time either way.
You have two great guests waiting in the wings. All right, you guys just hold on. We got great guests. Hold it. Just wait. I'm sorry.
Be perfectly honest, the two we've been waiting to interview all this time since we started.
But who are more? Okay, go ahead. You say
we've been talking like I've talked privately to people when I've mentioned on like promoting the show on Beepball Nation. There's something we've been working on, which is true, and it just hasn't like lined up good for us. I think, am I correct? We're going to definitely record it this week.
Man, in the COVID times, definitely is always a strong word, but it's a definite, yes, a definite probably.
The two of us can't even always really blame everything on COVID. Like between COVID times and Neil and Seth's type B personalities, we need a third person to be part of this with the type A personality. Big brother, big sister, one of the oldest. Two babies of the family running something. It's never a good idea.
We need somebody out there telling us, "Nah, man, you guys are screwing this up, man. You said 9 o'clock. I mean 9 o'clock."
So, anyways, we do have other stuff lined up, but since it didn't fall in for this week, and I didn't want to just not do another show, Seth had the idea that we will basically kind of interview each other, which honestly, there's a level of it, Seth, that makes me feel, kind of awkward, but at the same time, like we have in the past had desires to launch like a podcast, and we've even done some small show type things in attempting to get ready for that. And we still have desires to, outside of this Beepball show, still to do a more mainstream podcast. And in any of those cases, we would have always kind of introduced ourselves to launch it. But because I launched the show, like it more as a solo thing to begin with, and then we were able to expand when it moved to YouTube, we really never had that type episode anyway. So probably good enough time as any to do that a year in.
Dude, and who are more knowledgeable and more entertaining than us? I mean, we got 60 years of beepball between us, man. 60 long years.
A couple of things about it actually that I also like about it is, like, as we have found doing the show when we bring teams on, like, we don't really know a lot about those teams, even though they've been like, even teams that have been around for a long time, like, we don't know the players that well sometimes, and we don't know kind of the interactions of the teens, and that was kind of the case when like we were playing on the Dogs together. You know, we didn't know all the players from all the teams we were playing
All right.
against all the time. So in a way, it gives the newer audience a way to get to know us in our backgrounds a little bit better, and probably even some of the older players that are listening to the show. I know there's some because they've reached out to me, make comments on Facebook, whatever. But even they probably will learn stuff about us they didn't know. So who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
Like I said. And you know, we've been, like I said, we've been around the block. I always like to say, man, if there's a great player in beepball, I've either played with them or played against them on Friday or Saturday.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
sure
Right.
And that doesn't go for you as much because you've been retired for a decade. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? We our knowledge is, or you know, our experience, just our depth in the game is you know is right up there with anybody else. So why not entertain the people?
We hope. We always hope. So before we launch, I did want to tell you I learned a new word this week that involves us or whatever. It was kind of funny how it came across. So we mentioned Clubhouse. Clubhouse is basically like a conferencing app. It's in its beta mode, even though there's millions of people on there. It's at this point still invitation only, and it's iPhone only. So any of my friends with Androids, don't be offended that you haven't been invited. You're not welcome by Clubhouse standards. It's an iPhone thing only.
And
so
any of my two friends out there who I haven't invited, I'm sorry. You know how I am. Come on.
I have quite a few. I've built up invites. I think I have at least 6 invites right now, but I don't know who would be interested in a conferencing app. I'm not just going to send invites to anybody. I've got to have a conversation with somebody to make sure they want it before I'll send it. Yeah, but so there's a large community of blind folks that are building up on this app. And so I was in a conference room with a bunch of blind people, and there were several beepball people in there also. And something about our show was mentioned, and somebody who didn't know me well, it's like, oh, you do a show? It's like, oh yeah, you know. And Lakeisha Holmes, who's a member of both Wool and the Jets, she was in there, and she jumped in. She's like, yeah, he does a vlog. And I thought she said blog. I didn't even know what blog was. It was the new word. But I thought she said blog, and I got all offended. I'm like, blog? Those were big like 20 years ago, man. I do a show. And Axel Cox from the Jets was in there too. He's like, calm down, old man. She said vlog. It's a new word. I guess it's like video blocking it's still not how I would describe what we're doing, but that's basically what it meant. But I just thought it was funny. But it's like, hey, old man, calm down. I was all offended. Blog, we're bigger than that. So
there's already a word like a bog, right? It's like, don't people get bogged down?
No, vog, V.
Vog.
Video blog.
You knows I was deaf anyway. I can't hear anything anyway. I'm gonna get some new. I'm gonna get some hearing aids and make a return to beepball. But no, so we're vogging, Neil Dog.
We're vogging, Sethy.
That's where we're vogging.
Yeah. I feel so young and hip right now.
Yeah, man. You gotta run with the young ones, man. You gotta run with the young ones to feel young.
Young.
Another
insider.
Yeah, right. No more inside jokes.
All right, go
ahead. I feel like I did something for our sport in the last 2 weeks. After, my father and I had a very, let's say, spirited conversation after the acquittal of Donald Trump in the second impeachment trial. And he was telling me that I need to be more proactive in, what I do politically, try to help on a more active level. And we were talking politics, and that is not where I'm going.
I was
But
gonna say,
I sat down.
I hope his platform wasn't to use our show.
Oh well, yeah, believe me, he said, man, you need to make Neil let you talk politics a little bit more because the beepball world would definitely benefit. So yes, he was saying that, but I'm not pushing that, of course. Um, but he did say that. It's
Well,
funny.
and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I guess, like I said, for the audience, can I respond to that just a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
So,
without a doubt.
when the show started, it was never meant to be a long-term show. It was this lockdown had started. There was a pandemic going on. I'm not a political person, but I also, even though I have feelings more towards one side of the aisle than I do the other, I have hated the division that has gone on in this country over this last 4 years. And even before that,
Yeah,
really.
and sorry before that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Uh,
I've hated the division in our country, and I've hated the division in our beat baseball league, the NBBA. Things had gotten ugly in our league, and so and the thought of this show at the time, it was just going to be a short-term virtual training camp, basically,
right,
for
right, right,
b-ball
right.
players.
To get people and since you couldn't practice outside,
Yeah,
a way
exactly.
to nestle to help people prepare for beat ball, even though you couldn't physically
Exactly. It
go.
was the
Right.
time of year, like I knew from years and years of playing, when teams all start coming together, and nobody was coming together. So I just
Right.
jumped in and wanted to do something to bring our beat baseball community together. And so I didn't want to talk about anything that would divide anybody.
Right.
Now the show's been evolving, and in all fairness, like not necessarily like world politics, but we've gotten a little bit political or whatever.
We've
So
touched on it a little bit. We jabbed a
I'm
little
not at
bit.
all close to I'm not closed at all to us broadening what we can or do,
Right.
whatever, talk about. It's not, I'll let you, not let you, anything like that. Um, but I don't want to be divisive in any way. I
Right.
want us, if we're going to talk about stuff, I want all sides to have a voice. Whether
Right.
I agree with the other sides, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't want us to be. I don't want us to take a side. Like you and I think a lot alike, so I don't
Right.
want us to always like be expressing our side of something without like an opportunity. You know what I mean? We would divide the audience, I guess. So
Yeah, no, and as I've said, most of the audience aren't necessarily, we aren't all on the same political side of the aisle,
right,
right? And
right.
so and I get that, he gets that, all that, but so totally. I mean, we
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
do that. Nobody wants to hear a political show here. And
exactly.
especially we could get real deep and stuff, and nobody really
Right,
wants
right.
that. Um, but it did inspire, right? It did inspire me because I have been here for 2 years, not on the show, obviously, but I brought it up on the show with Michael Garrett, or Doc, the one, the Doc tribute, um, that I think it's BS that we do not debate rules on the floor of the um, General
General
Assembly.
Assembly, yeah.
Right. And so I was like, you know what? I'm done talking about it. So I went and I looked at the bylaws, and I went and I wrote out a bylaw, and I submitted a bylaw to the bylaws committee that that says that we shall being the operative word, debate all proposed rule changes and bylaw changes on the floor. And obviously I'm not giving the proper wording and stuff. It's a little bit more
Yeah,
expansive,
I would hope.
but on the floor, before those votes are taken. So
Hmm.
the bylaw committee, we had a little bit of quibbling and going back and forth on where it actually goes. It doesn't really go perfectly anywhere. Um, So I'm not necessarily sure where it's actually going to go. That the bylaws committee said that they would give me some guidance on that. But man, I took that step, man. Politically, you know what? Just write it. If there's a rule you don't like, if there's something you want to change about the NBBA, just write it out and submit it. And hopefully, if we ever get to debate things on the floor again, rules will get passed. Nothing will ever get passed if we can't debate it on the floor. I think our sport needs some big structural changes. And none of those structural changes will ever happen if we cannot talk about them on the floor at the General Assembly. So Neil, my father yelling at me, or I say yelling, spiritedly, he and I having a spirited conversation, as I'm sure you know we do.
I've been around actually many Clark debates, conversations, ironing out. They're very passionate.
Yeah, very passionate.
They're very passionate.
You know, my dad's from New Orleans, you know, so we have that hot Southern blood. And it always used to be fun when Charles Boudreaux and my dad would be, you know, Charles Boudreaux, the coach of the Bayou City Heat, because Charles Boudreaux has that same Louisiana hot blood mentality, boy. And there were times I'd be like, man, I got to make sure these two old men or older individuals do not get into a fight out here, because there were times it seemed like it was going to go that way. But the main point is, hopefully everybody will support this new bylaw. I'd look to see if there was a rule, but doesn't seem like the rules addressed it. Obviously, a rule would be easier to pass. Bylaws, you need 2/3. But as we come into this year, since I will not be at the World Series this year, hopefully this rule will get passed, man. But everybody needs to be politically active, Neil Dog. That's the moral of the story, Neil Dog.
You know, going back to Clubhouse, that actually, because I haven't thought about how we could do it and make it come off right, but I'd actually like to record a show from Clubhouse sometime. But part of that is kind of introducing it to our Beep Baseball community, because I think it's a place where we could go and discuss rule changes and bylaw changes, and not be monitored and not be whatever, you know what I mean? Not people would have an equal voice to speak however they want to speak or whatever. So
that's actually real. I mean, again, there's no substitute for the floor.
No, totally agree.
But I totally know where you're coming from. I agree with that 100%. That would be a good place that we all could collect and discuss these things, you know, right. Without a doubt.
But along your dad's thought or whatever, like, or I guess responding to it further, like, I would love to use the show to do that. Like, we tried to do that with the 7th player rule, and there wasn't a huge response, really. But I mean, I was hoping to use that to start a larger conversation. I would like to use the show to bring people in and have a larger conversation about your bylaw change. I know from a conversation in a Beep Baseball related conference room on Clubhouse, there's going to be a rule submitted by someone to change from our 12-run rule to a mercy rule. I would like to, you know, invite voices onto our show and discuss that, you know. So I think we could use the show, like the show, Clubhouse, stuff like that, you know, just like Beepball Nation's been used to, you know, get conversations going or whatever. Only here it's voices talking to voices and not writing, setting people off the wrong way, or, you know.
Right. I mean, actually, that's a really good idea going forward, because you do need the opportunity to discuss the rules, right? Like, you're never going to get that 12-run rule changed unless you can talk to people. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to come off of something that is so ingrained into
Oh
the
yeah,
game.
that's
Um,
I don't even know how old sport or rule. It's
right,
over 35 years that I know of. I don't know if that rule is from the beginning, but that's one of the oldest rules. So
right,
changing that would take conversation, people
right.
bouncing ideas off each other. I'm sure even if we're going too far off topic, but like that particular rule, getting people to agree whether the mercy should be 10, 12, 15,
Right,
20, like
right,
just getting them to first to agree on it, then agree on
right,
where that line should be drawn. You know what I
right.
mean?
Exactly,
So anyways,
exactly.
I'm fine, like
Right.
opening up any way we can to get more discussion because it's been taken away from our sport in some.
Yes. No, I am 100% agree. I actually like that at the clubhouse stuff.
Right.
Being able to employ it that way.
That's why I
Um,
wanted to do an episode from there because I would like to kind of promote that idea.
uh,
Anyways.
yeah, no, we should just figure out what. Well, we'll talk about
Yeah,
it
yeah,
later.
yeah.
But Neil Dog,
Yes, sir.
it's funny. I was thinking about this. I don't even really know how you got your start in Beepball. I mean, I know you went to the World Series in Palo Alto and
Yeah,
stuff in
yeah.
'86, but I don't know where that translated to you actually playing.
So I'm 52 now.
And did and let
Yeah,
me ask you,
yeah,
did it start beforehand? I mean, did how
yeah,
long had
yeah,
you
yeah,
been
yeah.
blind before that? You
Yep,
know,
yep.
uh,
So I'm 52 now. In 1979, just about a month before I turned 11, I was involved in an accident that left me blind. I was out with family and friends in a big water skiing group. That was something that was water sports in general were big in my family, and water skiing was a big part of our summers. I'm the youngest of five kids. Really, I was an accident, even though my mom always preferred me to use unplanned. I was an accident. I came a long time after my three brothers and sister are all much older than I am. So, anyways, I was a
Hey,
baby.
Neil,
Yeah.
I just gotta stop. Now having kids, it's funny that those terminologies. You got to think of as
Unplanned.
I look at my own kids or whatever. It's
I
funny terminology.
think
But
all
go
three of
ahead.
yours were unplanned. I got something in common with all your kids. We can relate, but I gotta wait till they get older.
Yeah,
Anyways,
right. Okay, go
so we were out. I was out with my oldest brother. He had a boat. A bunch of his friends had boats. We were out on the water all day, and going home. One of the boats in the party had broken down, and it was a day cruiser. And my brother's boat's a jet boat, and day cruisers, weight wise, are quite a bit bigger than and size are a decent amount of size bigger than a jet boat. But we were the last boat, and it's getting dark, and they're just floating in the middle of the river. So we were trying to pull them in, and what was used was two water ski ropes and a chain connecting those two water ski ropes. And one of the ropes broke, and I was sitting right in front of the tow bar of the jet boat, and I kept looking over my shoulder because I knew that rope was going to break. I kept seeing it stretch and stretch, and so when it did break, I had been looking over my right shoulder, and the chain came back and hit me in the face. So I was totally blind from that moment on. A few years later, my freshman year in high school, I think
I'm just
it
gonna say
was.
one thing. I always interrupt people. You. That's
Right.
pretty damn lucky though that you didn't get hit in the back of the head. You know, it was
Yeah,
a
I mean,
lucky thing that you were turning and looking at it and it hit you in the front of the head, man. Well, go ahead. I'm
no,
sorry.
I mean, I not in a long time, but I have thought about like the different things that could have happened or whatever, and I mean, I'm just lucky I lived really. In the end, there was very little because it did a lot of damage to my face. My eyes were totally taken out. The right side of my face was, crushed or
Right.
whatever. My nose had to be reconstructed. My sinuses had to be reconstructed. I had very little scar tissue left between my brain and my sinuses. So I was in ICU for almost a week because they were worried about the sinuses leaking to my brain.
Right.
So, and some would say jury's still out on whether that happened or
Right.
not. Maybe a little damage was done to that dog. So around my freshman year in high school, because I went back, I had been a competitive swimmer and I got right back into swimming the following year. I couldn't get my face wet for several months that summer, but a year later I was back competing against sighted kids and doing well in the league or whatever. So I was kind of in a way back to my normal life, even though had to go to a different school and learn Braille and all that. You know what I mean? I was still like doing sighted things with my friends. So my mom comes in one night and she's like, "Hey, you know, there's blind people playing baseball on TV." And dude, I was just so arrogant about it. I didn't even leave my room. I was like, "That's stupid." Like I had played baseball, and I'm picturing them playing baseball the way sighted people play. You know, a shortstop picking up a ball and throwing it at first base or whatever. And I'm like, man, there's shit. And the runner running around the bases while they're doing that. I'm like, that's just stupid. Why would they do that? I didn't even go learn anything about it. And then my senior year, because in the 80s there was a pretty strong Bay Area beat baseball
And do
association.
you know who that was on TV? I mean, was it the Bay
I
Area
don't,
League?
but I
Okay,
think it
good.
was the Bay Area League. I found
Okay.
out late. I got a copy of a video after I started playing from some of the Bay Area guys.
All right.
That was a special. I probably have that video in this house somewhere. But I didn't know it right then, but I believe later that it was a special done on the Bay Area League.
Right.
So, and that league had as many as 6 teams in it at one point. When you and I joined it in the late 80s, it was down to 4.
Right.
And only because your new team and my new team really made it for it. But you know what I mean? It had taken a hit and wasn't as big as it had been. But my senior year, the Society for the Blind here in Sacramento hosted like a clinic where a handful of people came up from the Bay Area League. It was like winter of 86, like January, February of 86, which was the same year that the World Series was here in California, held at Palo Alto. And so and Kimmy and Slick Watts, two players who probably should be considered for the Hall of Fame, two of the best players of the late 80s, early 90s that our league saw. They were part of that group, and I just fell in love with it. More than anything though, Seth, was hearing about the World Series. That I mean, I was like, I once I heard the rules, once my arrogant ass would sat down and listen to the rules and didn't just say it was stupid and walk away, it made sense. How the games played made
Right.
simple sense. It wasn't
Right.
a complicated game, but I could hear it was a competitive game. And as
Right.
they talked about the World Series and some of these great players, like I just wanted to be there. I mean, the guy who drove them up from the Bay Area, he was a big volunteer for the Bay Area people back then. I want to say his name was Wally Kozar or something close to that.
Yes. Sounds
Wally
familiar.
something. Yeah. Wally something. Um, I don't think he was real popular with the NBBA because he was one of those people who like found the sport later and decided, oh, I know how I could make it better. You guys need to do this and you need to do that. So I
Right.
like he
Right.
introduced the game to me and I never saw him a lot after that. So I think fondly of him. But as I got involved with the board, it's like, oh, that guy's a pain in our backside. So I don't even know what all went into that. But I remember at some point I had a blue windbreaker on. And at some point, because I kept asking questions more and more, like how they do this, you know, I was just getting all fired up. And he pointed at me. He's like, "That kid in the blue windbreaker is gonna be a champion one day." Because I could just see it in his face, and I knew I wanted to be, and I'm thankful that eventually, became one or whatever. So we got a team started in Sacramento, but we got going too late to register for the World Series.
What
So
year is that?
86.
Okay, got you.
And so then we did go down on the Friday, because back then it was still a 4-day tournament, and we went down that Friday and just caught games all day. And the East Bay Blaze finished, like, they ended up going to the championship game and
Right.
finishing second to Albuquerque. And the North Bay Nemesis, the team I ended up playing for the next 3 years, and they finished third. So that is kind of my basic introduction to the game.
And you guys were playing that year? That your Sacramento team
We
was playing?
played, like, just we were practicing and pickup game, like how you do those demonstration games. Or I remember at one point we
Right.
did like a charity game where the Sac City junior college, like, baseball team got blindfolded. It's embarrassing because we're all blind and we've been spent a few months learning the game. These Sac City kids came and kicked our ass. We couldn't stop them, man. They were probably cheating though, because they kept making contact. Now, we didn't have a
Right.
pitcher, you know what I mean? We were
Right.
making contact. We're out there in the field, bam, bam. It's like, man, they cheating. So yeah, I forgot about that till just now. They whooped us.
Cheating the blind guys,
I know,
man.
right?
These people. What are you gonna do with decided? Crazy people. Crazy people. And then what? You guys got in the league
we got in the
year,
Bay Area League. Yeah, I'm actually. I meant that's why I wore it. I meant to tell you. For the blind audience, I have a jersey on, the Thrashers written across it, blue jersey with Thrashers written across it. That was the team we started in Sacramento. The name was my idea. I don't know why I thought that sounded cool then. Sounds silly now. But, we were the Sacramento
You were like 17, 18. Man, a lot of things that sounded cool.
Yeah, right.
17, 18 are silly now.
But we were the Sacramento Thrashers, and we played in the Bay Area League as long as it lasted. It kind of took on a couple different names or whatever. It's, I don't know, kind of a weird time, whatever. People battling for different powers as more new teams popped up or whatever. But I don't think we've had a league since 1993. Which ironically was the only year the Sacramento Thrashers ever played at the World Series. So, proud of my Thrasher roots. I since the Thrashers never made it to the World Series, from 87 to 89, I played with the North Bay Nemesis. And then when they broke up after the 89 season, the Blaze took me on despite Don's reservations at first. I don't know if you know that, but I almost didn't get to go with you guys. But then that's when you and I first became teammates, 1990, and played with the Blaze for the next 3 years.
All right. Crazy. You were a bench player behind me. Which is crazy because you're so much better than I have been around.
Well, I mean, it was kind of weird because, like, you had some kind of surgery that I think that's when your shunt got put in that summer when I first went to the Blaze or something. But
91. It was the following year, 90.
All right. Well, for some reason in 90, I was going down in 90 and practicing a lot with the team. But you weren't at the practices too much. Like, I don't until the end. You weren't around. So they were always playing me in your spot, which was over by third base at that time. And I was playing well over there. Don liked how, because Slick Watts was our short player, and Don liked how I was like creeping up behind him on all the short balls or whatever. And then when you were back in the mix, they just moved me over on the first base side, which I had never played over there, and I wasn't getting the angles well. Like, I didn't. So I actually wasn't playing behind you. I was starting, but I was starting over on the first baseline. And it was I didn't play all that great defensively. I didn't. It took me a while to get the angles. But I wasn't backing you up, son. I got cheated.
Those years are so long, guy. I don't remember remember. They all blended.
Yeah, after the Nemesis broke up, because Eric Mazariegos was with me on the Nemesis, and Dave Horn was a spotter on the Nemesis, and the Blaze wanted Dave as a spotter, and Eric as a Eric was going there. Don and Eric had started to develop a relationship, so
Right.
Eric and it was going there anyways, but. Dave Horn and I used to fight a lot, and even though we were good friends at the time, we were getting a lot of arguments, and that got back to Don, and Don didn't want it, and so at first Don wasn't going to let me on the team, and so there was those just two California teams going, and Don wasn't letting me on the Blaze, so like I called Austin because Wayne Simpson and I had a good relationship. But I mean, they said no. They were completely local at that point. They didn't have any outsiders or whatever. So they said no. And even though I was on the board and been around a few years, I didn't have a lot of relationships around the league. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was finally, man, I went back with my hat in hand and went to Don at some point. And I was like, man, I give you my word, I'll be a good teammate. You know what I mean? If you're worried, if your only reservation is me and Dave, I'll give you my word. I'll avoid conversation with Dave. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not asking you for a starting position, whatever. Just put me on the roster. I'll be a good teammate. You know what I mean? I won't cause problems. I'll give you a quality player or whatever. So that's how I ended up playing with you on the Blaze. I had to go beg for a spot.
That is funny.
So if we're gonna pass it back and forth a little bit, then what was your journey?
I mean, I grew. We're baby children, right? We're the youngest in our family, so I grew up in a sports family. So I always played sports my entire life. My brothers played football, did all that stuff. And when I was 13, the beginning of my 8th grade year, October 5th, 1986, 4 o'clock, I was at my friend's house up in the Sierra Nevadas, and I was watching the Cowboy game. Shocking, right? Always. Cowboys forever and ever and ever. Cowboys lose 24-7 to the Broncos. I'd look at my friend and he has a freaking 38 in my face. And I could see that the next time he pulled the trigger,
was he a Bronco fan? I never knew the score or anything like that.
Yeah, right. He didn't even like football, man. Maybe he was mad that we had to watch the football game. It's like, but man, I didn't like how the Cowboys played either, man. They looked like poop, man. We were at the end of the Landry times, man. I was upset too. So I looked at him and I could see, the foot's like the gun's like a foot away from my face or whatever.
Yeah.
And I could see that there was a bullet, not a bullet, fortunately, not a bullet, but a shell that was going to go into the chamber next time we pulled the trigger. We had been using basically snake shot, bird shot, or buck shot for a 38. Yeah. So I could see that shell. And I was like, man, don't, I know it's a PG show, but don't F around. That gun is loaded, right? That's what I said. And then I paused and he didn't do anything. I was like, man, don't F around. That gun's loaded. It's not going to turn the way you think it's going to turn. Because I was thinking he saw the shell and thought it was going to rotate the other way. But regardless, he then pulled the trigger and, shot me dead in the face, and, 120 something pellets in my face, blew out my left eye immediately, and then damaged my right eye beyond repair. So both my eyes are plastic, though I do have a real eye under my right eye.
That's all
but
right. I left that out, but that's kind of what happened to me. Like my right eye was completely taken out, and my left eye was damaged to a point where they left it in there and they like sewed it up, but it like I don't think there's anything to see in it. Like I think it shrunk or something, but I did have kind of a similar thing.
Yeah, they're supposed to shrink. I definitely, I have a little bit of totally unusable light perception. If I take my eye out and look directly at the sun, if I look directly at the sun, There would be like a
Yeah.
sliver, not,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a vein
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
light will show, nothing that anybody could ever use for anything. Um, but so regardless, I'm in the hospital. I was in the hospital for a month, intensive care for a week up here in Sacramento. They helicoptered me down to UC Davis, my first but not my last life flight helicopter ride. Oh, and you know, really, when I'm thinking of my start though with Beepball, it really kind of starts with my parents and my family, because at that point, they're like, we understand you're blind now, but you still have to play sports, right? And they immediately started talking to me, you're not going to play football. What are you going to do in high school? You're going to wrestle. You're going to do, crew, whatever. And like 2 months after I got out of the hospital, they took me up skiing with Mike May and the Kirkwood Instruction for Blind Skiers program, and I started skiing and doing all that, windsurfing. And so I started wrestling the next year in ninth grade. And at some point, Tony Lewis, a guy that, a name from the Bay Area blind scene,
Actually,
who knows
the NFB world knows him too.
yeah, exactly. The NFB blind scene, Tony Lewis, who knows everybody, right? Everybody knows that Tony knows
from
everybody.
Philadelphia to California, Tony Lewis if you're blind.
He had decided he was going to start a beepball team in Albany near me, and he somehow contacted my teacher, my VI teacher, Mr. Kellis, and I remember, he set up a meeting with me and my parents down at Albany Bowl, and he went down. We went down there, and he told us about the game and all that stuff, and there was no real, it was like, okay, this is a blind sport, Seth. You're about to go play a blind sport, and I played baseball a little bit, but I'm a football guy, right? Football's my thing, right. And so we went out, we practiced, and it was funny because they pitched me the ball and I smacked the hell out of it, right? And it was great because when I could see, I could not hit, right? I could never contact with the ball.
Had to go blind to feel that, to get that experience.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, I just was a horrible hitter, man. A horrible hitter. And I realized now I didn't look at the ball, right? I didn't look at the ball and I could see. But so that kind of like got me hooked onto the game, and we had that league, right? You pointed out that the Albany Cougars were one of those new teams that started up. God, I don't even know what year this would have been. Like 88, obviously. So we play the league, and I mean, I don't know anything. They got me playing up front. I'm not an up front player or anything like that, But
I mean, for our beepball fans, or for our beepball people that understand the game, and a lot of times, like taller players play in the outfield and shorter players play up front, because you need to be able to get real low to the ground to be to benefit on defense. And at this time, Seth is already 6'3". So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
sticking him right up front. I'm not sure about the coaching at the time.
Yeah, right. And I didn't know, and it messed with me because it intimidated me. Right. I realized that intimidated me. I had just gotten shot, a year and a half earlier.
Yeah.
I was very protective of my face. I didn't want anybody touching my face. But, it made me a little gun shy. I'm not going to, I won't say it didn't. But, we play the season, and then, as our season ends in June, Kimmy Watts from the Blaze, he calls me up. He's like, man, do you want to go to the World Series as a member of the Blaze? And the Blaze had won our league that year and all that stuff. Right. And I'm like, man, hey, I'm there. I was, I was as cocky as anybody in the world, at that point in time.
I remember.
Yeah, everybody knows that. Anybody who knows me back then, I was big and I was cocky.
For the record, the two of us didn't start out well.
Yeah,
People
no,
that don't know this, we
yeah,
hated
we
each
did
other.
not like each other.
We
We did
hated
not
each
like each
other.
other. There was a couple of different conflicts that were very closely averted between
Whole different
two
show.
two young cocky individuals, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
but I went to the World Series, and the Blaze played me. I started, I starting as the tournament went on. I actually started in the third place game against the Albuquerque True Sight, um, and then we came back. The decision had to be made. It's like, well, Seth, are you going to stay with the Cougars? Because Kimmy was like, man, you need to come with the Blaze, be our full-time starter. Otherwise, you're just going to keep being a bench player with us. And it was, so I had to make that choice. Like, do you go with the Albany Cougars or do you go with the Blaze? And me, I'm loyal to the end, so I went with the Cougars. But right after I made that decision, Tony Lewis, I think it was related to me making that decision, decided to throw the towel in on the Cougars. And
Oh
so
yeah. Yeah,
uh,
I remember because the Cougars, that was only a 1 year thing, right? With the East
yep,
Side Cougars. Yeah, I remember
yep,
that.
yep,
And you guys were a good team. You know what I mean?
yep.
I remember
We were
because
solid.
your team and my team at that time, the Thrashers and the Cougars were kind of in that same boat of like coming together. We each team had a little bit of experience on it with a
Right.
bunch of new
Yes. Right.
players, and
Right.
we had some battles, man. And
Yep.
I remember the first time I played against you, it came down to like the last ups in the last inning, and you hit one over my. I was playing in center field at that time, and you hit one over my head to win the game, if I remember right. I
I
don't know
did.
why I remember that way, but I believe you hit the game winning hit in the first game between the two. It was like 17-16 or something. I
Yeah.
don't know why I remember that, but I do.
Deal dog. I'm going to say you're right. Your memory is is,
I
is,
know
is,
I'm
is
really
pitch
close to
perfect.
right. It's not
Right.
might not be 100%, but I'm really close to right.
I don't. I have no freaking memory of
Yeah,
it
I do.
whatsoever. That was that
I
long
do.
time ago. All right. But yeah, no, I
I
always felt
remember
that
the
Tony.
spotter telling me because you had a big swing, but it was a big golf swing, and I remember the
Right.
spotter telling me because you might have hit that on like 0-4 counter. We had like two
Right.
balls and five strikes back then. You might have been like 2-4 at the time when you hit it. And I remember the spotter telling me, he's like, man, Neil, because, I was out in center field, so I was by the spotter. But I remember him telling me, he's like, it looks like it's going to be really hard for that pitcher to hit that bat. But if he hits it, it's going in the air. And sure enough, whoa, over my head.
Oh, the story of my early beatball career, right? But yeah, no, I always felt like Tony threw the towel in on the Cougars to allow me to go play with the Blaze or whatever. Um,
Being that Tony ended up on the Blaze, are you sure it was totally for your benefit?
oh my boy, oh my boy. And then I ended up playing with the Blaze, and that's all she wrote. Became Bam Bam, man.
Yeah.
Here we are,
All
30 years later.
and that's where I was going to go. We got to get you out of here. You got something to do with your son, Delaney, my boy, another
Yes,
youngest. That's
yes.
why he's my
Yeah,
fave, the youngest.
yeah, yes, exactly. You can see it too.
Oh, yeah. Look forward to watching him grow up. We're going to have so much in common. But so look, between the two of us,
Yeah,
we've got over 60 years of being around this sport. And
yeah.
because we've both been around and played on really good teams, great players, whatever. For you personally, is there like a favorite section of it, a favorite player that you enjoyed playing with? It doesn't have to be that minimized, but is there like a favorite part of the journey for you? Like one
Dude,
part of it that stands out to you?
I mean, as I think back of what stands out to me, like right off the top of my head, right? Obviously, I left the dogs under really, really bad circumstances in
Yeah.
whatever that was, 2006, right? Was that 2006?
No, oh
Something like
08.
that.
Oh 08.
Oh, wait, right?
Yeah.
And I left under really, really, really bad circumstances. I was really angry. I was really, really bitter. I remember going out to, when I would be on BART going out to school, I'd get off my BART ride after 45 minutes just thinking of it, and my jaw would hurt because my teeth were clenched so bad.
Yeah.
Um, but going to the Heat that next year, going to the Heat in Stockton, and man, they were so much fun, right? Because the dogs, we had really turned, right? We weren't so much of a fun team anymore at the end, right? At least for my team, we had a lot of people from out of state.
Yeah.
Um, we didn't,
We're more of a put together product.
yeah, we were put together and stuff, and I stopped hanging out. I stopped hanging out with people at the World Series as much and stuff. But at the that first World Series with the Heat, man, it reminded me what I loved so much about our original team, our original dogs. You know what I'm saying? How much fun we had, just as a team.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever happened on the field, but just as a team, man, like we were together, and that year in Stockton with the Heat, man, I had so much fun kind of rediscovering like what I had lost, or what even though we were successful with the dogs, what what I felt like we had lost, um, you know, over the years. I'd always thought that winning was the only thing, and I don't believe that. It's not. It has nothing to do with winning, right? It's about the team and the journey and that experience that you have
Yeah.
together.
We were lost in
Um,
that together though at the time. It really maybe even just our whole team. You know what I mean? It's
right,
like
right,
we put winning above a lot of things.
right,
It's why we ended up winning, but you know what I mean? We definitely, I guess if looking back, there's probably steps we would do different as more mature people or whatever,
right,
or at
right.
least
No,
what I hope, or hopefully
right.
more
No,
mature.
we
So,
made our decision,
oh
and
yeah,
in that moment, I didn't realize what that decision was costing us. But then as I left and everything kind of fell apart, and then just to go back to the Heat and just see a team, man, that loved playing with each other and had a great time and was good. We finished third that year. It wasn't like we were a cellar dweller or anything like that. So yeah, I knew, just like the Dons were at the beginning. We never were cellar dwellers before we won
yeah,
championships. We were
yeah,
always competitive. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, so as far as like that, I always remember. I will always remember that 2000 tournament for me, right? That if anybody asks me, that's the one, and then closely followed by
You mean the
1995.
2009
Yeah, that
with the Heat?
2009 with the
Yeah,
Heat.
okay.
That was because it returned, something that I thought I had lost in beatball,
Yeah,
and that would never come back.
yeah, yeah,
And then then I always think of 1995, right? 1995 as the Dogs, we had a
yeah,
freaking great time.
yeah.
Just an absolute great time, man. And loved it, so I always connect those two things in my mind. Um,
No,
so
I definitely relate. Like the '95 tournament always will stand out to me. Like for a whole bunch of different reasons. For one, like we showed the entire sport that we're on the map. You know what I mean? It was
right,
no more talk, no more whatever. We were on the map. So it stands out for that, but that also is just such a competitive tournament, the like Austin, Fort Worth, Houston,
right,
the Chicago Cobras, and us, like all five of those teams just all had competitive games. We had
right,
so many one run games in that tournament.
Yeah,
And they were all 18-17. I'm leaving out Wichita, the Wichita Sonics,
right,
which was one of
right,
the best out of all that
right,
group. I said, so there are like 6 legitimate teams that could win the tournament that year.
right.
And all the games with all the teams were just knockdown dragouts. I've never felt so whooped at the end of a tournament as I did that one. But man,
No, I mean,
I
if
am
you
so
remember the video
proud.
from there, when I threw, I lost the coin flip and I was like, I cussed or whatever. It hit the ground. It's because those games were so
Yeah,
close.
yeah, yeah,
It was like, we
yeah.
needed,
They
we
were,
had used that bottom of the sixth and you
yeah,
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So,
So many of the games, literally, we had 2 games against Wichita and one against, I want to say the Cobras, that all turned out like 18-17, and we
right,
won like 2 of those 3 games, and we were the home team. And you know what I mean. So
right,
there were a bunch of these 1-run games, and it was the last at bat that was getting it for every team. So no, I feel you. I feel you. But I
right,
love that 95. I'm so proud of that season. Really,
yeah. No,
I
95
feel
again.
pride when I think about that season.
Yeah, I love 95, man. But what about you? I mean, you've had comparing our careers, I mean, you're a star. You're a bona fide star, one of the bona fide greats of the game, man. You know, what about you? I mean, as you look back on your career, what stands out to you? What in the end makes like you smile when you think, man, we did that. I did that. I was a part of that. What is it for you?
Well, first, thanks for how you said that. If I was listing stars in our game, I would never like throw my own name in there or whatever. So it's kind of you to say that. Um, the I guess there's a couple things that stand out to me, and only the first really directly has to do with playing. And that one thing that I hold dearly to me is really that whole section of time from like 94 to the early 2000s, which was the long period where you and Don and Eric and I, who were the 4 who really made the dogs happen. There
Right,
without the 4 of us, there were no dogs,
right,
in all its success or whatever. And the 4 of us had been on different teams and in different situations and had things that we liked and we didn't like. And we sat down at the beginning. That originally was kind of between Don and I, and then we ironed out some of our whatevers, because we out of the 4 of us, Don and I knew each other the least. So
right,
Don and I sat down after the 93 season, because when the Thrashers went, Eric and I were the coaches, and
right,
and and it was terrible as far as I'm concerned, the coaching part of it. And I realized that I can't coach and play. My playing, I
right,
was terrible as a player. I wasn't proud of myself. I didn't do either job very well. And
right, right,
so I swallowed my pride. I was like, man, Don and I sat down, talked about who we wanted, who we didn't want, what we wanted, what we didn't want, how we'd go about it. We brought you and Eric in right away. You guys were on board, and the 4 of us set on a path. And we achieved. We might not have had everything we wanted through that, but that just that how we stuck together and built such one of the best products this sport's ever seen, in my opinion.
right.
I just carry a lot of pride just thinking about that whole section of time. So it's
And
not. Go ahead.
no, I mean, as you should. It's funny because as I try to tell to the Heats, like I tell the Heats, like we could be like the Dogs, and I always get, oh no, you can. They're all just all stars. It's like, yeah, but you didn't see
The
the
beginning.
strides Eric made between 93 and 99, and Neil made, and Mike Finn made. We all, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, we grew
when you guys
together.
became those all-stars, you weren't, you know, I always try to say, Eric didn't drop out the womb the greatest beatball player in the history of the game. He made himself into that, and he was only able to make himself into that because of the program that we were kind of going on, you know.
Yeah.
And so I totally feel that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, no, it's cool. So, like that section of time is something that always I carry a lot with pride. But the other things are really just areas where, like, I guess I just felt like I had really, I guess I felt like I earned a lot of respect. I told you the story once of the year I played with Oklahoma City, and you know, they had a bunch of the Fort Worth wasn't around. There was no Lone Star Roadrunners team during that time. And so a lot of the Fort Worth people, Scott Hudson, Sam McKenzie, Roy Eubanks, Devin Nance wasn't with us the year I played with Oklahoma, but he had played with Oklahoma. So a lot of these, you know, Dan Green's with them. So a lot of like NBBA, you know, players that I competed against, guys I considered warriors, were on that team. Benny Myers, a legend in my mind. And so the team elected Sam McKenzie as their captain before the tournament started. And the first day of the tournament, one of the players was having a really rough time and missing a lot of bases. He was our DH and he was missing bases. So it was, you know, not a good situation. And before the second day started, Sam McKenzie came up to me. He's like, Neil, man, we talked to this kid, Matt. And, you know, that was no big deal. But when the captain, you know, the like a legend, you know, of our game, Sam McKenzie, one of the great offensive players ever, you know, comes over to me and asks me to do his job. Like, I don't know. I felt really respected, I guess, in that case. And the 2006 tournament, which we've talked a little bit of, is a tournament you were in the hospital the whole time, which is a whole, you know, a whole show in itself probably. But you know, that was Tim Hibner had come on as our pitcher that year and brought on some of the Oklahoma people, including Benny Myers. But also Jim Mastro ended up with us, who's one of the founding fathers of our game, a Hall of Famer. Both he and, that's probably telling us we got to wrap it up. But Mastro and Benny Myers, you know, two Hall of Famers, both on the team with us. And we made it to the championship game. We lost to, I think it was Taiwan. I don't even know. I should know. Yeah, it was Taiwan. We lost to Taiwan in the 06 championship. And after the tournament was over, I had Mastro on one side and Benny Myers on the other side, like thanking me for.
Neil Dog, are you drinking again?
I'm not. I'm not, but you know, I'm a baby. Good job. You got me to laugh. But like I had two bona fide legends of our game thank me for what I gave them. And that, you know, that at this point, that means more to me than like making all-star teams or being an MVP or whatever.
No,
I am proud. I am proud. Yeah, I am proud of that. You know, my success on the field, and yeah, I've been an all-star, defensive all-star a few times. I've been an offensive MVP once. So I'm proud of that stuff. I'm more proud of the respect I was shown by players I respected. To be honest with you.
Oh, good, man. That I make the the drink joke because that's how we've always done it in the past with Neil, you know.
No, I needed you to make me laugh anyway, so I was losing it. So you did well. You did well.
like the old times, Neil.
Yeah,
like the old
man.
times.
Saving your boy.
We still got it.
Well, we got to get you off to your family.
Yes.
Was I right? Is that what the ding was? You
It
think?
was, yeah, it was Trajan actually telling me that they are ready to go out.
Yeah. All right.
I had told them to be ready at 1:30. We got a baseball tryout coming up here for little man Delaney, so
Yeah.
we're gonna go out and get warmed up. We have not done any baseball over the last year, so I
Well,
don't want him
that's not
to.
a sport you could do indoors.
Yeah, no, my none of my kids like baseball. Landry, stay here. I'm sorry.
Hey.
None of my kids like baseball, and so it's me forcing them constantly to play. And so Delaney was not happy that he had to try out today, and under any
That makes me
circumstances.
sad when you told me he was trying out. It's like, oh, cool. Delaney still likes baseball. Nope.
Yeah,
All
no,
right, well,
he was not happy. And so,
tell him to
but
look at the ball.
yeah, that's
Tell
what I'm saying, man. It's one thing I know about baseball, man. Look at the damn ball. It makes it so much easier to hit. Step at the ball and look at it and hit it, man. And don't be afraid. If you're afraid of the ball, you'll never hit the ball. But I'll just say Delaney has been hit more than any of or Trajan's the only one who ever played baseball, but Delaney has been hit more than anybody else. He even got hit by the pitching machine. So, yeah, he's just a bad luck kid.
Man, Delaney's a big kid, though, so I wouldn't think it'd be that smart for the pitchers. You better avoid hitting him. He might charge you. My boy, charge in the mouth. My boy got a short temper.
Well, let's hope one day, man. That'd be great. I mean, it won't. It won't be great, but I always like to see
That's
kids,
going viral.
show a little passion for the game and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It always spills
Act like
over
you
and
care.
stuff like that. Yeah, exactly.
Not even act like you care. Care while you're there.
Yeah.
Care while you're there.
Exactly. Don't charge the mound. But yeah, I saw Dave Stewart knock somebody out doing that once. So don't charge the mound. It's never a good idea.
Right.
But But all right. But good.
Yeah, we'll let you get to it.
Out.
All right, gives everybody
All right,
a little
Neil
opportunity, to get to know the host a little bit.
Yeah, right. No, I wanted to ask, what was your greatest moment in sports? What was your great in beepball? What was your the moment you would like to take back? That's the one I always
A
like.
moment I'd like to take back. Not that it made a difference in the game or whatever, but the last game I played in, the championship game, we beat Taiwan and we beat them badly. We had them in the run rule by the end of the second inning and nearly by the end of the first inning. So we really just laid one on them. And what should have been the last play of the game, it was just a little like short ball. A short ball hit like in the coffin corner on the right left field side. And I jumped up and I was running for it. And Eric tried to call me off. And I was like, hell no, I didn't let him call me off. And I ran up there and I go sliding into it on my knees, and my right knee hit the ball and knocked it out of my reach. So, we had to go one more play that hit it to Eric, and we won. I don't even know.
Yeah, right.
Eric,
Eric, stay off me. Stay off me.
That was the second time in a big game that I had a chance. Not that either one would have had an outcome because we were in a blowout both times. But that's the second time I could have closed out a big game, and I muffed it. The first one I should share just because it's funny. It was in '99 when we made the championship game as the undefeated team for the first time, and we laid a whooping on Austin. I think the final score was 33-20. But I always say it should have been 33-19 because I did the same kind of thing.
That was not the final score in '99.
On Friday, it was. On Friday.
Oh, I was like, man, that was 72.
No. That was a whole different thing. No, that was even lower than that, I think. Like 6-3 or something. But a totally different field, though. But, it's same kind of, only on this one, my dad, it's in Sacramento. My parents were there, and my dad's video recording it. So I get to hear this after the World Series. So, we're down to the last out to get to the championship game as the undefeated team. And we just laid a whooping on Austin, which nobody had done in years.
Right.
And the ball comes to me, it's a little ground ball. I'm on my side. I grab it. I'm lifting it up. It slips out of my hand and falls to the ground. And the runner scores. But we had, if you remember, we had a huge crowd there for one. There were people lined up on both sides of the field.
I remember that.
And so when I listened to the video back, after the tournament, my dad's like, yeah, Neil, get it, Neil. My dad's all cheering me on, And then all of a sudden, my dad just goes, oh, as you hear the entire crowd go, oh, as I drop the ball. Everybody just, oh. So
I think sports sounds from the crowds are great, man. It's like those sounds when a mistake happens, like 50,000 people all making the same sound.
So it's silly, it didn't cost us the game in either case, but it's like, man, big moments like that. Why am I like dropping balls and stuff?
Right.
Disappointing.
No, and I'll throw out mine. Right. And it deals with 99. I've missed balls, so it's no big deal and shit. I never was a good defensive player. But if I had to change one thing, in 99, going in the week before the World Series, I changed my swing. The going into the swing, every time I would swing, my left shoulder would go numb. And I think Bill or somebody helped me change my swing so my shoulder didn't go numb anymore. And Brian hated it. The pitcher at the time hated it. But I liked it because my shoulder wasn't going numb or tingling every time I swung the bat. But he didn't like it, and I didn't do well. I ended up starting as the designated fielder in the championship game. But I always go back. I just should have dealt with the numbing of my shoulder for the next week. Been fine. You always got to do what your pitcher wants. And I was hard-headed, so that was on me. And if I could have changed anything, I would probably change that.
Funny, the whole thing just reminded me that after the 99 tournament, you guys were calling me Neil Mendoza because I only hit 200. Maybe that's what I wish I could have changed. Actually, helping you guys win the championship that year would have been nice. I made the defensive all-star team, but I didn't help much on offense. That was terrible. Anyway, all right.
All right, we're out here.
That's us, everybody. We'll be back with other people going forward. And we'll see you next week.
Hopefully. Dude, we don't need anybody else.
That's true. We only plan to do about 40 minutes, and I'm sure we're over an hour. So.
Yeah, we're an hour. we're over.
Everybody,
okay.
Well, be smart, be safe, be considerate, mask up. We will see you later. Good night, Aunt Cindy.